Welcome back, travelers. Well, every day, thousands of people drive by the exit to Oak Ridge, Tennessee without a second thought. To most travelers, it's just another way off the highway to a small town. But what if I told you that this exit leads to one of the most significant sites in modern history? Oak Ridge, once known as the Secret City, played a pivotal role in shaping the modern world as we know it today.
During World War II, an entire city sprang up seemingly overnight. But why here? And how did the government keep it hidden? Well, we know that in the early 1940s, the U.S. government selected this remote valley in Tennessee for one of the most classified projects in history, the Manhattan Project. It was big. More than 75,000 people lived and worked here. Many of them were unaware of the true nature of their jobs. They just knew that whatever they were doing was something to support the war effort. What was that job? Oak Ridge was instrumental in the creation of the atomic bomb, a fact that remained classified for years.
That piqued our interest. Well, that and several research articles. But we didn't just do the reading. We actually went there to find out ourselves.
Where we visited what is called the K-25 Visitor Center, which is located at the site of what was one of the largest industrial buildings during World War II. I'll tell you a little more about that later. So we've laced a lot of that footage in here with the videos so you can get a feel of what we saw. The amazing part, they kept such a large place hidden from everyone. You couldn't even find it on a map. It was more top secret than Colonel Sanders' secret recipe.
So why was all of this colossal effort necessary? Well, to know that, we've got to go back a little bit. Back before there was an Oak Ridge, back before there was even a Manhattan Project. It all started with a letter.
And this was a special one, no doubt. This was written by none other than Albert Einstein and fellow physicist Leo Szilard, and dates back to 1939, and it had a huge warning in it. The warning? Nazi Germany was working on a weapon that utilized nuclear fission, so it was sent to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Understanding what this prospect meant to the United States and the rest of the world, FDR was generally shaken over it and spurred our military into action, which ultimately led to the creation of the first atomic weapons under the code name the Manhattan Project. As the U.S. entered the war on December 8, 1941, the implementation of the Manhattan Project began. In 1942, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers claimed eminent domain on 60,000 acres, a beautiful eastern Tennessee mountain valley, creating the city of Oak Ridge. The goal of the Oak Ridge facility was to make the fissile material, or atomic material, for the bomb.
Thus, in natural uranium, we have U-234, U-235, and U-238.
To do this, they had to basically take uranium-238, which is a refined form of what you pull out of the ground, and make it into uranium-235. Why did they have to refine it? Well, think of it like 238 as being a firework that kind of would fizzle out. 235 was way more reactive and caused a better continuous reaction because it was a little more unstable. The struggle here was that uranium-235 was very rare in natural settings, so they had to take the 238 and make it into 235.
But refinement wasn't easy, and both plants at Oak Ridge used varying methods to achieve it.
So let's look at how they did that. The first large complex built at Oak Ridge was called Y-12. Starting in 1943, construction began on 12 huge buildings that employed large electromagnetic separators, a technique that used giant calutrons, as they were called, or essentially massive electromagnets, to pull uranium-235 out of the raw material. How did they figure out how to do this? Well, the method was adapted from experiments conducted by Nobel Prize-winning physicist Ernest O. Lawrence. Scientists began working on the setup and continuous production in the Y-12, but there was a slight problem. Production wasn't keeping up with the demand, so a decision was made to try another method, or at least experiment with another group. This test group of mostly female high school students were trained how to operate the giant electromagnetic units, and surprising to all, production soared. In fact, they were so successful that they were used exclusively and gained the nickname the Calutron Girls, which kind of sounds like a band. And while the production had improved dramatically, the refinement process was not moving fast enough. So another building was built with an entirely different process. Enter the K-25, built in 1944. This incredibly massive plant utilized gaseous diffusion, a process that involved passing uranium hexafluoride gas through a series of barriers to gradually separate the lighter uranium-235 isotope from the uranium-238. The building to house this operation was massive. It was actually the largest building on Earth at the time, over a mile long, 1,000 feet wide, and housed over 3 million feet of piping. Each plant played a critical role in producing the enriched uranium needed for the first atomic bomb. Did I just say first atomic bomb? Yeah, singular. The second atomic bomb utilized plutonium, as to where the first one, also called the Little Boy, used uranium-235 exclusively, which seems really amazing when you think that almost 1/7 of the nation's energy went to the Oak Ridge facility through the TVA network. In fact, in its entire operation, both facilities only created just under 200 kilograms of usable U-235, of which 100 kilograms was used on the Little Boy bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. So to put it plainly, the first atomic bomb basically cost $1 billion in 1940s money. So now we know what they were doing there, but many of the workers, even until the first bomb was dropped in 1945, didn't even know what they were working on. How would you feel about that?
If you love exploring hidden histories and untold stories about the U.S., then you've come to the right place. We love doing just that at Beyond the Exit. If that's the kind of content you enjoy too, we'd ask you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that we can keep bringing you videos just like this one. Also, in the video description, we have some carefully curated affiliate links. Now, these are tools that we have used personally, and we believe that they would help you as well. If I haven't told you already, we're very glad that you're here. Now, back to the story. Each plant had its own role in making enough fissile material for the first atomic bomb. That was the main goal, but just as important was the secondary goal, keeping it secret. That was no easy task.
Because this wasn't some little work camp in the Colorado Rockies. It was a fully functioning city covering 60,000 acres, complete with everything its residents had to have. 75,000 people trying to live normal lives while not talking about what they did at their work.
So how did they do it?
Well, very carefully, I'd imagine. The town had its own infrastructure, schools, theaters, grocery stores, and restaurants. Just like any other town, right? Well, except these were built under the watchful eye of the federal government. Life in Oak Ridge was unique. Despite the heavy secrecy, a sense of normalcy had to be maintained. Residents attended movie screenings at the Ridge Theater. They dined at government-approved cafeterias and stopped at stores that operated under strict rationing. As you can imagine, social gatherings were pretty limited, but families still found ways to build a sense of community, often through church services and youth sports, local clubs. Imagine living in a place where your neighbors were friendly, but no one could talk about their work, where life felt both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Most residents lived in government housing on site, and everything from milk deliveries to entertainment was carefully controlled to maintain secrecy. There also was a fair amount of psychological propaganda going on at the same time, as shown by these signs here. But when you think about it, something had to be done to keep it in the minds of the thousands of people that were working here that their secrecy for this project was so important. As you can imagine, it was airtight around there. Background checks, censored letters, limited movement. Even inside their own homes, families avoided talking about work. The phrase "loose lips sink ships" wasn't just a saying, it was survival.
As we said before, one of the best places to start unraveling the history of the K-25 and Oak Ridge is to visit the K-25 Visitor Center and Museum.
Sitting on the grounds where the massive K-25 plant once stood, this center takes you deep inside the history of the secret city. Exhibits detail the plant's role in uranium enrichment, how thousands of workers toiled in secrecy, and what remains of this once top-secret operation today. Walking through the center, you'll see artifacts, historic photos, and first-hand accounts that paint a vivid picture of life in Oak Ridge during World War II. The K-25 plant, one of the largest buildings in the world, still holds its eerie, abandoned presence. And Y-12, well, that's still up and running.
Oak Ridge was a daunting task to take on for both our government and the people that worked there. And knowing what we know now about the secret city, it raises the question, could something like Oak Ridge be pulled off in 2025?
In an age of social media, GPS tracking, and instant communications, could the government pull off another Oak Ridge? With digital surveillance and whistleblowers ready to expose classified projects, the odds seem pretty slim. But classified facilities still exist, and secrecy is still a powerful tool. How much do we actually know about places like Area 51, or deep-sea research stations, or underground military labs? If Oak Ridge happened once, it probably is happening again, just with more elaborate tools in place to match a modern-day technology.
Now, Oak Ridge's history isn't just locked in its museum. It's right in front of you. You just have to know where to look. From its role in World War II to modern contributions to science, Oak Ridge is still alive and well. You know, history is all around us. It's just waiting to be explored. The only other question is, will you take the exit and see it for yourself? We've enjoyed having you along with us today. Thanks for watching, and God bless.